Om Agana Timirandasyanganangana Sarakya Chaksurun Meditam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupagaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaivananotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tito Jyotira Nashta Prayashu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavati Uttamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Nigamaka Garidam Param Shukamakara Dravya Samyatam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamarayam Mahora Horishiko Bhivakaham Krishna Swadama Pagate Damagene Harsha Karanasta Dushamasho Parana Koduno Ditaham Tama Piadabhishuta Vishutam Vibusam Yapiada and Abidam Bedutsaram Prakyahita Ho Mahora Haritabanam Sanklation Avanamusanti Nanyatam Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Visnaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanyori Paskita Desatadine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. That's all I can do to keep myself from raising my hands during the recitation of those last few prayers, but when I do it with this virtual background, all kinds of strange things happen. So I'm keeping my arms down. You guys are welcome wherever you are to raise your hands in celebration and joy. Thanks, Rakesh, for joining us. Manasa Ganga, Jiva Goswami Das, Raleigh. Who else we got here? Boyd. Thank you, Boyd, for joining us. Appreciate that. And we just got joined by Sanjay as well as Justin Sorensen. Actually three of the regulars here, Prakash, who supplies all the verses, as well as Govindadat. Prakash is a disciple of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Govindadat is a disciple of Radhanath Swami. Good morning, Jimmy and Taruni. Haribo. And Sundari Priya is also a disciple of Radhanath Swami. Good morning, Subhadra. They give talks in the Salt Lake City Temple, and their talks are posted on Facebook. And the last 2 Saturdays, good morning, Anjali. Welcome to TT. 2 Saturdays ago, Prashant gave the talk. His initiated name is Pradyumna Narayan. Excellent talk. And last Saturday, Govinda Dev gave the talk. So if you want to hear a couple of the regular members of our forum giving talks, I definitely recommend it. Just go to Hare Krishna Temple, Salt Lake City, and their recent posts there. They're getting very good. I only have to go up about half the time now. I just make a schedule. There's all kinds of talented speakers that talk up there. And as I've mentioned several times before, we try to make the talks seeker friendly. Something that someone who's walking through the door for the first time and may have some misimpressions about the Krishna movement or some stereotypical ideas in their mind will get a very favorable first impression, as well as some tools to use in their own lives starting the following Monday morning. So Govinda Dev is becoming expert at that. Pradyumna Narayan, Sundari Priya, Rats Vilas, some of the youngsters like Ishan, who's 15, I believe, and Krishnam, who's about that age, also have stepped up to the plate. So I'm working myself out of a job, which is a really good feeling. A really good feeling. Good morning, Jayashri. If you've ever seen Jayashri's post, she has an amazing altar decorations, amazing prasadam. And she runs a gift store out of Florida. So check her out. Lakshmi Nrsinga Prabhu, Hari 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 Bo, from sunny Puerto Rico. Yesterday we talked about, we skirted around the topic of the good qualities of pure, genuine devotees of the Lord. So we'll dive into that today, shall we? And please feel free to add your comments. Lakshmi, if you feel like joining the discussion, you're certainly welcome to jump in. I will open the door to the waiting room. So going back, revisiting this verse, which is the 13th verse, 4th chapter, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And yes, in case you're wondering, that is the Festival of Colors. in Spanish for Utah, and with his back to himself, that person with his back to me is me, addressing the crowd. Now you know. Now you know why I go to all the trouble of organizing these festivals in 3 different states. And it is a lot of trouble. It's 12-hour days dealing with parks and recs, getting the insurance, renting the toilets, dealing with all the food vendors, and bringing in the artists, paying for tickets for them, and Airbnbs, and dealing with, most of them are pretty good, the devotees, but some of the others that are marginal are pretty sometimes temperamental. They have their own little scenes that I have to deal with that land in my lap. The fire department, the police department, and yada, 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 and the sound people. But it's also that I get up there in front of that big crowd and tell them about the Supreme Personality of God and Krishna. Anjali says, are you going to do free hugs during the pandemic? No. We've suspended not only the free hugs, but we've suspended the festival program itself. We just had to postpone for the 3rd time. Spanish Fork Festival was originally scheduled March last year. We postponed it to the fall. Then we postponed it again to March. And then just recently, the health department strongly disadvised us from having it. So we've again, for the 3rd time, postponed it to September 25th and 26th. So that's the status of the Free Hugs program. Open the door to your heart and let go in the end, says Lakshmi. Open the door to the waiting room. Gayatri says, thank you very kindly, Charu. Anyone who glorifies my deities is a true friend. Thank you for telling about Radhika's store. There's a link there. We live to serve the devotees all over. She's got a new line of bundis in. Remember the cortezet tie on one side? I always thought those were quite handsome. So if you're nostalgic for bundis, Gayatri Radhi has bundis for you. Okay, let's get to the business at hand, shall we? Tatsavam na samattva prishnuyari hakinchana manye tvam vishayavatam shnatam anyata chandashat. We know, and this is again Sanaka welcoming Sutta Goswami with pleasing words, that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. Prabhupada says, there is no difference between the Vedic mantras and what is explained in the Puranas as well as Itihasa. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, it is mentioned in the Manjadina Shruti that all Vedas, namely Sama, Atharva, Rig, Yajur, Puranas, Itihasas, Upanishads, are emanations from the breathing of the Supreme Lord. This brings us to the theme of today's. Good morning, Rob. I forgot to say good morning to you. We're side by side there on Zoom. Got a picture of him today. Devotee of the Lord automatically has all good qualities. Now, the impersonalists who are on the mental platform, they are sensitive to all the miseries which adhere to relationships in this material world. Most of our troubles, most of our anxieties, our depression and despair has to do with relationships that went south, isn't it? And so the impersonalists or the monists try to deny relationships. They try to repress. It's like when you take a probiotic. Have you ever had anyone tell you that the problem with taking or an antibiotic? Sorry, when you take an antibiotic, it kills the dangerous. What do they call bodies? I don't know what they call them, germs, bacteria, but it also kills the good ones as well. A probiotic, it protects the good. When you take an antibiotic, you have to take a probiotic because it promotes the good ones and it suppresses the bad ones. So impersonalists, like he takes just massive amounts of antibiotics and he kills. He takes everything that there is to do about relationships and just kills it. He wants to be non-existing because his existence as an individual and the interaction of that individual with other individuals in the material world has generated so much pain in his history. He wants to kill the whole range of individual interpersonal relationships by becoming one with the Lord, by giving up his individuality. And that's just like taking massive doses of antibiotics. The antibiotics, they kill the negative, they kill the cause of disease, but they also kill all the good bacteria that you need for healthy functioning. So devotional service is focusing about, it's not trying to kill, not trying to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's just trying to purify the bathwater. That's all. We're not trying to kill all relationships. That's like trying to kill a canary with a howitzer. It's overkill. We're just trying to kill that aspect of relationships which leads to loss, despair, and disappointment. And the Achilles heel of relationships in the material world, obviously, is they're temporary. They're temporary. We feel, the materialist feels he or she only has a limited amount of time here, and they've got to cram in as much enjoyment as they can. So they get married and they squeeze out all the enjoyment. They take the youth of their partner. And when the youth is gone and the partner's no longer so physically attractive, then they divorce and they go for someone more juicy, pardon the expression. So it's the cause of getting together, of breaking up. And two people stand in front of the minister and center of the altar with all of their friends and relatives witnessing, and they pledge eternal love to each other, to support, love, and obey, and happiness, and distress, sickness, and health, rich and poor. And they pledge all that to each other. They pledge to be devoted. And 1 year later, they're the worst enemies. They hate each other. Each one hates the other more than anyone else in the world. Why is that? Because it's an I marriage. It's not a you marriage, it's an I marriage. I'm marrying you as long as you, and I will stay with you as long as you cater to my sense gratification. But as soon as you stop stimulating my senses, as soon as the infatuation wears off, then I don't want to have anything more with you. I will find someone else to stimulate my senses. So relationships are a cause of pain and suffering. And even the most ideal of relationships, even if two people get along spectacularly throughout an entire lifetime, there's always that feeling of being cheated when one passes away before the other. The one who survives the death of their partner says, "Why did you leave me?" Like it was intentional or something. Why did you leave me alone? But our solution is not to kill all relationships. Just like when you're sick, if you shoot yourself, yeah, you've cured the disease, but you also have taken yourself away from any possibility of satisfaction or enjoyment or pleasure. So you just want to cure the disease. You don't want to kill the organism. So devotees, we don't want to kill relationships. We just want to purify relationships. We don't want to suppress or take qualities off the board. The fact is that God made us with senses. He made us as unique individuals. He is the source of all good qualities. It says, Gunatmanas. Prakash, if you're there, Gunatmanas te pi gunanvi matam hitaba nasha ka ishwaresha kadeni yarva vimakasha kapiya upamstake niyapadi vasha. In the 10th canto, Gunatmanas. Krishna is described as guna, means transcendental qualities. Gunatmanas, he's the soul of all qualities. Reposing within the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, the source from which everything comes, are all good qualities. And we're created with these qualities, but if you become too sidetracked in matter, you identify overly with this material body and the byproducts of this body, then you become sectarian. You become narrow-minded. You become a kripana, where everything is for you and for your family, and the heck with the rest of the world. So that's a crippled dure nahi varakaram buddhi bodham jananja buddho sadhanam amicham kripana phalaheta, one who wants to enjoy for himself and for the extensions of himself, the family members and the country, one who wants to take the fruits of his work and enjoy them as the proprietor, to claim the ownership of the fruits of the work is kripana, is a cripple-minded person. So that covers one's good qualities of universal love, kindness, consideration, and compassion. One of the first things that happens is when the heart is cleansed as a result of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All divisions of vision are eradicated. One no longer sees in terms of friends, enemies, and neutral parties. He's my friend if he promotes my sense gratification. He's my enemy if he inhibits my sense gratification. And you guys, I just haven't made up my mind about you yet. This is the ignorant mentality. This covers our qualities of universal love and appreciation. In the 5th canto, Prashant was here earlier. Maybe he dropped out. Maybe he's chanting his rounds or something. Yeah, in the 5th canto, Yashasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Kinshana Sarva Gunas Tadastaha Haro Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadino Manore Tanasati Daha Batobahi. Says all the demigods, this is the 12th verse, 18th chapter, 15th canto. I think it might be Rishabh, I'm not sure. Prakash, if you're there, you can check on that for me. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. That means you don't have to work separately for those qualities because they're not external to you. All good qualities were embedded within us by the Supreme Lord. Just like a spark, which comes from a fire, has the same qualities as the fire, light and heat. Prashant says he's here. Haribo. See what happens when I raise my arms? So I won't do that. But we don't have to separately try for honesty, integrity, intimacy, loving relationships, consideration, mildness. That's all there already. All we have to do is purify it, take the impurities which are covering those good qualities away, and those good qualities will automatically manifest themselves. And if we don't engage in devotional service and we rely on mental speculation or fruitive activities, we become a good person in the relative mundane sense, then those impurities will never be completely erased. It is said here, as well as a devotee having automatically manifested all good qualities, says those who are devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities, which are in 2 categories, fruitive work and mental speculation. Now, we need to note that to come to the Transcendental platform and to reawaken the good qualities of a pure devotee, you can't be mired in matter or mind. Matter and mind are both material. Matter is gross matter and mind is subtle matter, but they're both material. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 4th and 5th verse, Krishna describes gross matter, bhumirapo nadovir kamano buddhadevacha ahankara itinamina prakritim hashida. He says, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, these are the 5 elements of gross matter. And then kamano buddha ahankara, mind, intelligence, and false ego are subtle matter. So good people, as opposed to great people, devoted people. Thanks for that quote. Who said that, Prakash? Is that Rishabh? I know it's from the 5th canto, but I'm not sure who said it. It might have been Prahlad Maharaj. There are some nice verses. In fact, yes, it was. I believe that's a quote from Prahlad Maharaj in the 5th canto about devotees having all good qualities. Thanks for joining us, Raquel, Manasa Ganga, and obviously Prashant. So the total spirituality and goodness of the devotee, which supersedes the combined goodness of all the demigods, only springs forth when you're above the matter, either in its gross or subtle forms. Mam chava bachana bhakti yoga sagunam samatitaita brahma bhuya kalpate. Matter grips us Matter ties us up in three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So even the material mode of goodness is still entangling. A good person does not manifest all the qualities of the demigods, because at any moment, the danger is they could be overtaken by passion or by ignorance, the other modes of material nature. Being in this material world in the conditioned state is like tag team wrestling. Sometimes goodness may predominate, but then passion comes in and takes over, then ignorance comes in and takes over. And even material mode of goodness, one may be revered and admired in the material estimation, but the qualities of a person in mode of goodness cannot hold a candle to the luminous, eternal, transcendental qualities of a devotee. The Sudasattva, the pure goodness which is exhibited by a devotee, can never be tainted or overcome or eclipsed either by material goodness, by material passion, or material ignorance. Why? Because Krishna is personally enveloping you. Krishna is personally protecting you. You're sheltered at the lotus feet of Krishna. Nothing material can touch you. Namam karmani limpati name karma father iti mamya karma virna sabhadyate. Krishna is never touched by the material modes of nature. Krishna is never affected by the results of his actions. Everything Krishna does is transcendental, and it bears no karmic material reactions. It also goes on to say in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Namam karmani limpati, Krishna says, I'm not affected by the reactions of any of my activities. Name karma phalaspriyaham, nor do I aspire for the fruits of works. But those who are devoted to me are similarly immune from the reactions of karmic activities. So Prabhupada says here, on the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. That may sound like an extreme statement, but at the very least, what Prabhupada is saying, the good qualities are not stable. They're tottering, they're precarious. They're on the mental or the physical platform, which in itself is shifting and changing. You can never fully trust a person affected by the material modes, because at any moment their self-interest may shift. They may perceive things differently. They may be enveloped and overwhelmed by the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance at any time. So ultimately, you cannot trust the good qualities of the materials, because manore tinashati, they sit on the chariot of the mind. And anybody who knows anything knows you can't trust your mind. Raise your hand, indicating in the comments if you can't trust your mind. Your mind, you know what the mind, my mind, and I think everyone shares this. You know, in Lord of the Rings, Gollum, you know Gollum, Rob, that creepy little guy. That's what my mind is like. Sometimes I'll be able to, I'll step back and I'll take a look at what my mind is thinking, and I'm thinking, yuck, you're disgusting. And so when my mind gets too far off track, I have a technique which seems to work when the mind is just thinking something outrageous and negative and critical and down and dirty. In my mind, or maybe it's a function of my intelligence, I'll just picture a hand just coming right across the top of my head, like that. And I'll give my mind a metaphorical slap. And actually, it seems to work. It seems to actually discipline the mind. But the mind does not discipline itself. It has to be disciplined by the higher self. Indriyani parani hor indiye birapana manasastu paramana yoburo paradashtitam. Justin says, Mayand, the mind is in Maya. Jayashri says, rascal mind, friend and enemy. Mandaratmata, your mind can be your best friend, but if it's not controlled by the intelligence in the soul, it's your worst enemy. And Lakshmi says, worst enemy, my mind. So the good qualities of a non-devotee are on the chariot of the mind. And believe me, that's not a good place to be. Krishna does not want relative good for you. Krishna loves you too much to leave you on the platform of the mind. Krishna wants to take you. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patita mam vishame kripaya tava para pankajastita dali badisham. He wants you, and you should agree, you should surrender to what Krishna wants for you, to be an atom at the shelter of his lotus feet. Govinda, son of Nanda, though you're the one, second to none. I'm heartbroken in this ocean of birth and death. It's not worth the commotion. Pull me out of this cruel blender, surrendered as an atom in the sweet splendor of your tender lotus feet. Lord, when will my eyes pour with tears of love like rain from the skies above? When will my voice choke up? When in transcendence will my bodily hairs stand on end? Though a moment appears like 12 years or more when you're not here, I've only to proclaim your name and I'm smiling again. Even if you restrain me roughly in your embrace or pain me by hiding your face, you remain my Lord unconditionally. My always says, beat the mind with a shoe. It's, just like an unruly child. You've seen, we get them at the temple all the time. They are just out of control. They won't listen. If their parents try to discipline, they roll on the floor and they scream. They chase the peacocks. We say, please don't chase the peacocks. And then they start chasing the peacocks again. Or they stick in the aviary. When the parrots are in the aviary, they stick sticks in to try and poke the parrots. This is the mind. And we all have these. You don't have a good mind. The mind is capricious, whimsical, out of control, unless you take shelter of the lotus. Krishna, in fact, is the only one who can control the mind. Chanchanam hi mana Krishna pramita. Arjuna says, trying to control the mind oneself, it's like trying to control the wind. Imagine if there's a tsunami headed to shore and you stand on a cliff, you hold up your arms. Okay, tsunami, stop right there. Don't go a step further. It's not going to work. But Krishna controls the tsunami, controls every aspect of material nature. Only those who surrender, mayamitam tarantite, can succeed in controlling the mind through devotional service, through taking shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Otherwise, it's a defeat. Life is a defeat. Again, in the 5th chapter, 5th verse, 5th chapter, 5th canto, 555, Prakash. Parabhavas tabara bodha jato yavagda jinishu yadvaram yavad kriya tabadino harmatma kamyena sarira bandhan. As long as one does not inquire about spiritual values of life, one is parabhavas tabara, one is defeated, subject to the miseries arising from the mental platform, from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its result and reactions. A good person is enjoying the results of good karma. A person who's made bad choices is suffering the results of bad karma. But neither one is free from the clutches of material nature. Neither one is free from the prison house of this material world. They're both under the influence of Maya. Unless you become 100% under the influence of Krishna, you cannot be said to have good qualities. Just like in the prison house. Does anybody say, well, he's good? Does anybody say, you might say he's a good prisoner, but that's a relative term. When you say they're a good prisoner, it's actually an accurate description. They're good within the prison house, but it wouldn't be in the prison house if they were completely good. It wouldn't be in the prison house if they were situated on a solid foundation of goodness. Well, you can say they're a good prisoner. Similarly, those good people, philanthropists, humanitarians, activists, conservationists, they're good people. They're good prisoners. They're good prisoners, but they're not absolutely good. They think it might be good to take care of the planet. They think it might be good to protect the animals. But, we have a lot of people coming through here, and many of them say, yeah, I used to be a vegetarian, but not anymore. That means at one time they thought it might be good to not kill the animals, but then because they were on the shifting, changing mental platform, they themselves were not capital G, capital O, capital O D. They were only relative good people, small g, O, O, D. When their mind changed, they had a phase where they thought, yeah, I'll protect the animals, I'll protect the environment. But then the mind got affected otherwise. And now they say, well, I'm no longer a vegan, I'm no longer a vegetarian, I eat meat. Well, this is the shifting sands. So of the so-called good people, the conservationists, the humanitarians, philanthropists, you can say of them they are good prisoners in this material world. But the devotees have nothing to do with the good and bad reactions of karma. The devotees act only for the satisfaction of Krishna and thus transcend the good and bad of this material world. Otherwise, even the good people of this material world are colored by karma. Here it is said, be it sinful or pious, karma has its result in actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, which includes good karma as well as bad karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activities, as long as the mind is impure. And this material kind of good is also a type of impurity. It's relatively, it looks better, it cleans up better, it presents better in the material world than drug addiction and promiscuity, but it is still, material goodness is still impure because consciousness is unclear. One does not yet realize what is one's eternal constitutional position as a servant of Krishna. So one serves the earth, one serves the animals, one serves the homeless, one serves the sick. And that's all relatively good. But Krishna doesn't want you to be relatively good. He doesn't want you to be relatively better than the other prisoners in this world of birth, death, disease, and old age. What Krishna wants for you is to get out of the prison house of this material world and come back home, back to God, where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. Finishing up, says, as long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activities, one has to accept material bodies. Prabhupada says, qualities that are considered good, according to the material estimation, actually have no value because these so-called good qualities will not save a person at the time of death. Prabhupada's conclusion is that one should act in such a way as to be without fruit of desire and also to not be a mental speculative. This state of pure consciousness is described by Rupa Goswami, Anya Bilasita Sunya, completely take fruit of activity off the board, completely take mental speculation off the board. And in doing so, you take all the material influences off the board. You give yourself the tools, you take that shelter at Krishna's lotus feet whereby you can begin to control the mind. You come free from both the reactions of good and bad karma and become eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. Now it is said that Krishna, as I mentioned before, is Gunatmano. He's the source of all good qualities. And we're qualitatively one with him like sparks emanating from a fire. We possess the same qualities as the fire, light and heat. So Krishna is the Aishwarya Shamagrasha Viryasha Yasha Gyanam Vairagasha Sanam Bhagavitingara, all wealth, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, all renunciation. And we have those qualities to an infinite degree. So all we have to do to manifest those qualities is just be true to our eternal constitutional position as servants of the Lord. When you act as a servant of the Lord, you awaken and manifest all those good qualities. Otherwise, you're like a jewel that is covered in a dirty place. The jewel still has its value, but the value is no longer apparent because it's fallen down into the mud. In 7th verse, 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna, Mamai Vangsa Jive Loke. Jivas, we ourselves, the individual souls, the jivas. Krishna claims us for himself. Anksha, we're anksas. We're parts of Krishna like sparks from a fire. Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. He created us eternal. He didn't create us to manifest, exhibit a personality, desires, feelings, engage in relationships, which are all Maya, which are all false. Krishna did not go to the trouble of creating us so that we could then live a false existence of individuality and personality. It sounds bizarre. There's no reason why God would do that. He created us, and having created us, it's not a temporary creation. We are sanatana. Each and every one of us is eternally a part and parcel of Krishna. That means we are eternally individuals. You can't undo that. And we are eternally endowed, blessed, and gifted with qualities like wealth, beauty, fame, knowledge, and renunciation. So the last thing a devotee wants to do is insult the Lord by denying or repressing or trying to cover over the very gifts that the Lord endowed us with at creation. Prabhupada says here, since God is full, any living being who's attached to God in Krishna consciousness is also full. We achieve the fullness of our destiny by taking shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. And such a devotee, as you say, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You just want to cleanse the bathwater. So the devotees don't stop their individuality. They don't stop their activities. They don't opt out of interpersonal relationships, but they cleanse them. The whole process of devotional service is a cleansing process. Anya bilasita sunyam. Those contaminations, those alloys, those alien elements, which cause misery and suffering and plunge us into the temporality of this material world, devotional service makes them null and void. Anyabilasatasyam jnana karmadi anivitam anukulena bhaktir uttama. Uttama means above the modes of material nature, above certainly ignorance, above certainly passion, and above even goodness. All the material contaminations are negated by the process of pure devotional service. And who do we know? Bhagavatam is full of stories of liberated devotees, most of whom, actually, if you look at it, used to be fruitive workers, used to be mental speculators, but they came to the pure transcendental level of devotional service. I'll give you an example here in a second. Let's see what Manasa Ganga has to say. It's so subtle. The mind can be making you think that you are still Krishna conscious and doing bhakti yoga, and yet Maya has taken you on a material roller coaster. Only by Krishna's mercy and our spiritual master's blessings can we stay on the path. It's true. That's why in the title of this talk I said the good qualities of genuine devotees. One has to adhere faithfully, steadfastly, the lotus feet of one spiritual master, the result of which will be the following good qualities. These are the qualities of Haridasa Thakur, which are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There are 28 qualities which automatically become manifest in a pure devotee. So if a devotee is critical, judgmental, angry, cutting, it's to be understood that he has not yet reached the level of genuine devotional service. If a devotee badmouths or criticizes or threatens others who are engaged in the service of the Lord, that is a sure symptom that they are on the material platform, probably not even of goodness, but passion and ignorance. Those neophyte devotees who are just sort of taking up devotional service tend to think that only their brand of devotional service is genuine and all other practicing devotees are bogus. That word is thrown around a lot. So here are the qualities by which a pure, and a big part of the Bhagavad Gita is just exactly on this point. How many times is Arjuna asked, what are the symptoms of a genuine devotee, not a pseudo devotee? And Krishna never answers with superficialities. He never says, well, a genuine devotee has tilak on his forehead, he has kunti beads, and he's wearing a kota. Krishna never answers these questions about how to identify a genuine devotee by the way they dress or the way they look or superficialities. Krishna always answers Arjuna's queries by referring to their inner qualities. There are 28 of them. Listen. Well-behaved, tolerant, peaceful. This is Haridasa Thakur. Well-behaved, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, and grave. Speaking sweetly. Endeavors are pleasing. Always patient. Respects everyone. What to speak of the devotees, even the non-devotees. May not make them their bosom buddies, may love them from a distance, but nevertheless respects everyone. Always works for everyone's benefit. Mind free of duplicity, devoid of malicious activities. These are all original qualities of Krishna, and when one becomes a devotee, Prabhupada says, they automatically become manifest. Here's the actual list, which is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj. The good qualities of a genuine Vaishnava. He is kind to everyone, does not make anyone his enemy. 3, truthful. 4, he is equal to everyone. 5, no one can find any fault in him. 6, magnanimous. 7, mild. 8, clean. 9, without possessions. 10, works for everyone's benefit. 11, peaceful. 12, always surrendered to Krishna. 13, no material desires. 14, meek. 15, steady. 16, controls the senses. 17, does not eat more than required. 18, is not influenced by the Lord's material illusory energy. 19, he offers respect to everyone. 20, does not desire any respect for himself. 21, very grave. 22, merciful. 23, friendly. 24, poetic. 25, expert. 26, silent. 26 qualities of a pure devotee. And Prabhupada says, and we'll end with this, leave you with this beautiful quote from Srila Prabhupada. Think of all the possibilities that this awakens. It's in a purport to the 29th verse of the 11th canto, 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says, keeping in mind these 26 qualities of pure devotees, one can just imagine the beauty of a society filled with saintly persons as described in these verses. The wonderful Krishna conscious qualities mentioned above are the basis of a peaceful and prosperous society. And if everyone takes to the loving devotional service of Krishna, then certainly the present atmosphere of fear, violence, lust, greed, and insanity can be replaced by a celestial situation in which all leaders and all citizens will be happy. Om Tat Sat. Would you agree with me? That's a good note, a good upbeat, positive, ecstatic note to end our Transcendental Tuesday discussion. Thanks, Lakshmi. If you want to come on and do kirtan, you're certainly more than welcome to. Otherwise, thanks, Manasa Ganga, Jaya Shri. And we not only thank you for joining, but for participating, jumping in with your comments and your likes. Please go ahead and share as well. Bye, Bobby, Rakesh, Raquel, and Sean, Anjali. Let me get back again. Malika, thanks for joining us. Malika, Bhakti, Gary, Haribol, Gary, Shama Sundar, I think for the first time, perhaps Ram Kishore. Ram Kishore, love your. Ram Kishore posts his meals on a daily basis, mouth-watering meals of Krishna Prasadam on his Facebook page. Lakshmi Nashringa, Jai Ho Lakshmi. Oh, hold on a second. And then Subhadra, thank you, Subhadra. Radhe Sham, thank you. Chris, upstairs. Sanjay, Justin, and 3 more. Let me see if I can find out who those last 3 are. Raleigh, Jean, and Boyd Christensen. So grateful to all of you for joining us. We have 50 comments already. I look forward to responding to you and for talking more tomorrow on Wisdom Wednesday about the qualities of the devotees. Such a wonderful, refreshing, uplifting, wonderful topic. We haven't by any means exhausted this topic today. To be resumed 23 hours from now. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.